Hey there, this is James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems and BikeJames.com, and today I want to talk about a common question I get about lower body training that pertains to the knee and if you should let it travel out over the toe when you're doing a lower body exercise. Now, I usually get this question when I show an exercise like the airborne lunge. So if you haven't seen the airborne lunge, it's where you're standing like this and you're literally like doing a standing lunge. Now you'll see as I come down, my knee comes forward, it comes out over my toes there. And so whenever I show an exercise and people see my knees come forward like that, inevitably I'm going to get one or two people talking about how that's bad for the knees, it puts too much pressure on the knees and you shouldn't let your knees travel forward. So the other end of that spectrum, basically what they're saying is that you should learn how to squat and keep your shins vertical, that your knees should not be able to travel forward. And so this leads to a lot of people developing bad lower body mechanics, trying to adhere to this kind of catch-all rule that we've been told about the knees and the toes. But here's the problem, it's not really the knees that we need to be looking at. We need to be looking at the ankle joint and the hip joint and what's happening there. So when people have a problem with their ankle joint or their hip joint, you're gonna see that at the knee joint. But again, the knee joint's not the problem. Restricting the movement of the knee over the toe is not gonna fix the real problem. So let me show you what I'm talking about. If you don't have good ankle mobility, what's gonna happen is as you come down, as your knee starts to travel forward, your weight is going to shift forward from your, hopefully from being evenly distributed on your foot, the weight's going to come forward on your toes. If you keep coming, you'll actually see the heel come off of the ground. And this is where you get the common advice when you're squatting or deadlifting, don't let your heel come off the ground, because that's a sure sign that you've shifted a lot of weight onto your toes, and this starts to put a lot of stress on the knee joint. But if you have adequate ankle mobility, then your knee can travel forward and you're able to keep that even weight distribution on the foot. So it's that weight distribution on the foot that we need to be looking at, not where the knee is. Because again, if I have poor ankle mobility and I get to this point here and now my weight starts to shift forward onto my toes as I come forward, I'm putting way more stress on my knee than if I'm keeping nice, even weight distribution. I have good ankle mobility. So again, the stress on the knee, the knee's in the same place over the toes, but the stress on the knee is much different, and the difference is are you getting that movement that you need out of the ankle joint? The hip joint's another area that you got to look at, because if you're lacking hip mobility, then a lot of times you're going to be looking for extra ankle movement out of the ankles, and then if you've got bad ankle mobility and you add that on top of it, you're really going to be putting a lot of stress on your knees. And so again, if you're not able to push your hips back, you're going to end up coming down like this. So this is why I advise people when they're squatting or deadlifting, start with your hips. You want to start by pushing the butt back and make sure that you're using the hips to drive the movement. You don't want to drop straight down. You can see how my knees start to shoot forward again. Like that's just an indication of bad technique, bad movement. It's not that the knees need to stay back. So again, a good squat, you're going to see a rhythm between the hip joint and the knee joint, and you're going to see the weight staying evenly distributed on the feet. You're not going to see a weight shift to the toes. So as I come down, you can see my knees can travel forward. They're over the toes right here, and they're fine because my weight is evenly distributed. I've got good movement out of my hip joint, my ankle joint, so the knees are safe. But as soon as I start to get restrictions in the ankle joint or the hip joint, that's going to start putting extra pressure on the knee joint. So again, you want to make sure if you have pain in your knees when you squat, or you have your knees start to travel out over your toes, then you need to figure out what the problem is, either bad hip mobility, ankle mobility, or just kind of not moving well and just kind of needing to learn how to move properly and initiate movement from your hips and not your ankles. Fix those problems instead of trying to figure out how to squat with some sort of vertical shin and not letting your knees travel forward. It's very unnatural. If you watch humans move, especially watch when you're hiking up something or climbing up stairs, your knees are going to travel over your toes. It's a natural human movement. It's something that we should be able to do. So again, if you have problems and pain with a natural human movement, something we should be able to do, don't avoid it, fix it. And it'll make you a better rider as a result, better athlete, better human, perform better, less pain, all that good stuff. So anyways, hopefully this makes sense. Again, the point is pay attention to that weight distribution on the foot. And if you feel your weight shifting forward onto your toes, then that's a sign that you're starting to put extra stress on your knees. That's when you need to stop. That's what you need to be focusing on, not necessarily restricting the knee being able to travel forward or something like that. So anyways, once again, this has been James Wilson with MTB Strength Training Systems. You can check me out on the web at bikejames.com, where you can find this blog post on this, post any questions you might have there. I'll be happy to get to them, and I'll talk to you in my next tip.